All right, in this episode we talk about Alfonso Soriano's mechanics
and how to leverage your pitching delivery to an elite level. All right, Brent Porcio, Stephen Godani here at the @TopVelocity #PitchingTips show. We are the most dangerous pitching show online because we have the most challenging programs out there for those who actually want to get better. Because we call out weaknesses and we make you get better. Not a lot of people want that, right?
push you past their limits.
Right, but that's how it works here. So if you're not ready for that, yeah, don't come down here. But we'd still would love to have you down here. We got 3X Velocity camps coming up. Of course, check out our 2X, 3X programs. But today you go to @TopVelocity, or you go to where do you go? You go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, @TopVelocity, #PitchTips, #BaseballTips. You ask your question, we answer on the show. We're going to get started today. What's the question for today? Alfonso Soriano asks, "Hi, I'm Brian, and I threw a bullpen last week. Would you take a look at it and tell me what I need to fix?" Brian looked at your video. You're loading and driving, which is good. So you're loading and driving off your back leg, which is fine, and you're doing it well. Problem is you don't understand how to separate those phases. So that's something you need to learn. Go on YouTube, search the 2-phase delivery for 3X pitching, and watch it. You understand there's a stride phase and a throwing phase, and high velocity pitchers will separate those phases better. So you're not separating your phases, which is not allowing you to convert that energy. So the problem is if you work to build a long explosive stride and you don't separate it, you just throw earlier, then it doesn't convert well, and it's of little use to the ball speed or generating ball speed. So really critical that you start to learn hip to shoulder separation, because what that's going to do is delay the trunk, keep the chin more behind the belt buckle, the shoulder more counter-rotated, the trunk more contralateral tilt. That's going to load more energy there, and then you'll be able to have a better front leg, because the front leg will be in a better position to support the unloading of the trunk. And that's going to be key for you converting your back leg drive right now. Now you also might find that when you get in that position, it's so much of a more of a load on your lower body that it's harder to generate power through it, and it's harder to then of course unleash all the power. So you might find too, in creating more separation, it's going to be harder for you to drive, and your drive kind of breaks down, which is normal. But you need to understand that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to separate the phases. Low velocity pitchers in their strides, they want to start throwing. They have that early trunk rotation. High velocity pitchers will better separate from their strides, which allows them to transfer more of that energy. And that's really what you're struggling at. That's why you don't see your front leg extending. You see your glove side pulling early, and you quickly release after front foot flying over a bent front leg. So all that needs to be loaded and transferred later, and that's called hip to shoulder separation. Anything you want to add to his video?
Yeah, Brian, I think you catfished me with the Alfonso Soriano headline, but that's okay, I'll look past it. Yeah, Brian, I think it looked awesome, the way you loaded and drove, everything like that. But I think a big thing for you is going to be learning how to use the front leg to stabilize the energy. And that's one thing we use with the King of the Hill drill, where we'll do our throws where we feel a little drive from the back to simulate the hips coming through, and then driving back with the front leg and getting everything to load up and feeling the timing of that. I just think you might not have the timing of that quite down, and as you start getting better at that, I think that'll start translating into more hip to shoulder separation and then stabilizing the front leg, and you'll start getting that catapult effect.
Cool, and everyone in the programs, that's the biggest jump. It's so easy to master the lower half, the back leg drive at least, but then to put it into more hip to shoulder separation is really, really the bread and butter, and that's what we call it here at 3X Pitching, or with 3X Pitching approach, is the bread and butter is being able to take the lower half power, the triple extension of the back leg, and convert it into more hip to shoulder separation, because that's really the purpose of what we're trying to do. I developed 3X Pitching in trying to implement more hip to shoulder separation. So hip to shoulder separation is really the core of it, and the triple extension is what really needs to influence it, and that's the challenge, and that's what we're trying to do. Absolutely. Next question. Brian Havarilla asks, how do you get the full benefit of leverage, that feeling of barely throwing, but it jumps out of your hand? Okay, Brian, that's a great question, because when I went from mid to upper 80s to low to mid 90s, that's what I experienced, and I think you're probably starting to understand that. And that's a good understanding, because that's where you have to go with your biomechanics. You have to get it to a place of where you're leveraging all of your body to the last moment, to where the energy all unleashes on the ball efficiently, effectively, and it gives you that feeling of exploding and jumping out of your hand. That's what we're trying to do. So what does it take to get there is a really good biomechanics understanding, and of course a way to train this, and that's what we do with the 3x pitch and velocity program. But if we're loading or building power through the back leg and front leg drive and force production, and then we're delaying the trunk into hip to shoulder separation and more contralateral tilt and more external rotation, we're now opening up the ranges of the body as we're generating speed through that ranges. And that's what's really what leverage is. Leveraging everything is maximizing range of motion and maximizing speed through those ranges of motion, and that gives us the leverage and gives us that explosiveness on the release. So, the lower half, we can maximize both power and range by going farther and faster, hitting front foot, and then making sure we create more hip to shoulder separation out of that with contralateral tilt, hip to shoulder, counter rotation, and then going into the trunk release. It's going into a good external rotation as the trunk moves forward, so we're getting more distances covered out of the trunk because of the hip shoulder separation, the delayed trunk, more external rotation in the arm, and all that is going to give us more range. And if it's building up the chain, if that power is coming up through the lower half, up into those movements, proximal to distal timing, one after the other, each movement sequences after the other, then you're going to get that maximum leverage on the ball and that explosiveness and that jump out of your hand. So until you really maximize all that, and that's what we do with the 3x pitch and velocity program, you're not going to feel that. So once you maximize a back leg drive, you maximize a front leg drive, you maximize counter rotation or hip to shoulder separation, you maximize trunk tilts or forward tilts, you maximize the arm path, horizontal abduction, maximum external rotation, and then you get that into release at the right time, that's when you're going to be there and you're going to experience that moment of that ball jumping and exploding out of your hand, and it almost feels effortless at that point.
Yeah, I think Brent did a great job breaking down biomechanically what you're going to need to start doing, and I don't know how far along you are athletically, mobility-wise and stuff like that, but that's just another thing that you have to be working all of those together, like in the fusion system, like we do here, really pushing everything at the same time, and that's when you're going to see it start happening. So if you're not explosive enough, or you're not getting into the range of motions like he's talking about, you're really not going to be able to feel it. But as you start building everything up and really implementing the mechanics with the program and everything, you're really going to start realizing how to use the kinetic chain to load the arm, create hip to shoulder separation, stabilize the front leg, drive the hell out of the back leg, and really create that power to launch the ball.
Yeah, and the problem is this takes a crap load of work, guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is why it's the most challenging program out there for increasing pitching velocity, is because it takes the time to develop the elite biomechanics, the elite mobility, the elite power production, and then put it all together to get to that place of that high ball speed. So the point is, if you're not fully committed, this isn't going to be something for you. And unfortunately, there's a lot of approaches out there that want to quickly throw you into something that gets you the feeling of throwing hard very quickly, so you feel excited, and it gives you that feeling of that this is just a quick fix. It's a quick fix, and I can jump back in my season.
Absolutely.
And that's where everybody goes wrong. In my mind, that's where you really can end your career. Once you take your first step down that quick, short road, it can get you kind of quickly searching at the end, and then you never come to that place in your career where you say, you know what, this is going to take work. You identify your weaknesses and you say, you know what, I'm going to do this right. I'm going to build it from the ground up. I'm going to build a really good base, and then over time let it accelerate and explode, and then maybe one day you'll be like this guy, 9-year big leaguer, having that kind of an experience, because that's what he did. He's always been a worker. And of course he had a lot of genetics going into this, but the times in his career where really hit those hard roads, where he had injuries, 3 or 4 different injuries David's had, and he really sat down. He said, I've got some problems, I got to fix them. And that's what he especially did with us, 2014, where he really wasn't, he was in AAA. He knew he probably wouldn't get another chance at big league ball, and he knew he had to get his ball speed up, and he sat down and he was willing to accept his weaknesses and willing to do what it takes to build it from the ground up. And that's what it takes to get to a place to where you feel at your best. You are at the best of your game, where you leveraging everything, and everything just feels at another level. It's going to take a big commitment, and you wanting to jump into these quick little fixes and gimmicks and things that guys do out there to get you feeling like you're throwing hard quickly. I think that's kind of corrupting you from really what it takes to be an elite athlete in anything. And this isn't just baseball. I mean, we talk to Olympians a lot. They'll tell you right now, if you take two twins, and you just try to get one guy maxing and pushing himself as hard as he can, yeah, he'll probably get to a really good max of power quicker than this guy. But if you take this twin and you teach him correctly the biomechanics, and you work to establish the base of mobility and joint integrity and strength to power, what he's going to do is he's going to get to where this guy is later, but then he's going to explode past him and move to that elite range. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be this guy trying to go as quick as you can and then getting stuck in a plateau because you didn't develop the biomechanics, you didn't develop the mobility, you didn't develop the right motor control? Or do you want to be this guy who took the time to build the base, the foundation of an elite athlete, and then later in your career explode to that ultimate level? To me, this is the guys that you need to be, and don't be the turtle, not the hare, right?
Yeah.
So, good question. That was a great question. If you got a question, unless you got anything last you want to say, or
I would just say that, just adding on to that, we want to be the best athletes we can possibly be. I think that's what separates our program and makes us so cool, is that we want to be beast on the field. Stop babying pitchers. Let's become the best.
And you can't do that in 3 weeks.
Yeah, you can't do that in 3 weeks. But over a period of time, if you stick with it and you have the mentality, this will give you the mentality. This will turn you into a beast. This will make you the best athlete on the field. And I think that's what the coolest thing about the 3X program.
Right, and that's because you look at someone like Chapman, be able to move his arm that fast at the end of the chain, which is the fastest human movement ever recorded in a laboratory. You'd have to say he's probably the best athlete in the world, being that's the fastest movement ever recorded. So that's why we model someone like Chapman, is that's who we want to be. And that's why it does take that mentality of being the best athlete, or trying to be the best athlete, and then putting that into elite biomechanics of a high velocity pitcher. All right, if you have a question, go to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, @TopVelocity, #pitching tips. Ask your question. We'll answer it on the show. We'll be at the ABCA convention in Nashville. Come check us out. Also check out topvelocity.net for all the 3X, 2X programs. Come down to 3X Velocity Camp. See you next time.
Yeah. Hold on, we them boys. We them boys.